I'ma make the sky explode, rolling smoke out my nose, leaning on the console. I ain't seen no asphalt in about 10 miles.
What's up, dude?
What's up, man?
How you doing?
I always like hearing that song, dude. It's got to be one of their best songs.
I love it.
And then just beyond that,
I know. We've tried to leave from it.
we've
We
tried
can't.
other songs. We've tried famous songs. We get permission to use famous songs. Not that those guys aren't famous, you know what I mean? But it just feels like one of the best intro songs.
I know it.
I don't know. And the
I know.
outro is good on the outro.
I
But
know it.
let's get into it, man. We got a
Let's do it.
topic today. I think you guys are going to appreciate it. I think it's going to create some, some good thinking for your own moral construct, right? We're going to be talking about less convincing, more conviction, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we've kind of talked about some of this stuff before. Anytime we're in a certain, phase of growth, I tend to reflect because as much as opportunity starts to present itself and you've got some different things that are going on that are great, you also just have to make good decisions, man. And I think a lot of times we can get not necessarily stuck in the weeds, but we can get stuck in the weeds. We can just be distracted by, let's call it potential opportunity. And, you've got it from that lens. And then you've got another lens of just like, so that's like something that's trying to attract you, right?
Okay.
Like some things that are being presented to you. But then you've also got this phase of like, when you're in effort of attracting, am I trying to convince somebody to be a certain way? Am I trying to convince somebody that my way is the right way versus just having more conviction in my behavior, more conviction in our direction and just letting that speak for itself?
Yeah, because then people's opinions don't matter at that point. When you're
It really
convicted on
doesn't.
something.
And listen, it's really important for you guys to understand we're saying that from a very friendly way, a very, not an egotistical, my way is better than yours. And, oh, hey, I don't need to convince you. I'm just going to do my thing. It's not coming from this egotistical, condescending standpoint. It's coming from, two things stylistically of just your style approach, right? Like Tim Tebow, he's just not a pocket thrower, dude. The guy's not going to sit in the pocket and throw the ball to the flat. We saw that. He couldn't throw it to the flat, but he'll run the fuck around and do his thing and cool and win a playoff game and cool. And what do you say to the guy? Is it wrong? I don't know. He's the most accomplished quarterback in college football history. Once you got to the pro level, it's like, well, see, it didn't work at a pro level. Well, I guess in his defense, pro football wasn't ready for his run pass option style of football. They're just now starting to kind of get a hold of that. And then like, yeah, he's just not necessarily the best thrower of the football, and I got it. And doesn't mean he doesn't win. And then you've got different ways where like Tom Brady, clearly not the fastest person out there, but he's a pocket passer. Then you got the Mahomes out there where like, hey, he's a little bit of both, but if you contain him, then this happens. And, the reality is this happens in business too, dude, where like stylistically who you are, what your strengths are, what your strengths aren't, the map of just the people you meet by getting into it. Like the people we've met are the people we've met. The opportunities that have been in front of us are the opportunities that have been in front of us. And it's different than the next guy.
Right.
So our skill set, in addition to our network, and we got to play our play.
Yeah.
Stylistically, our approach and what we do might not be for the next guy, correct? And that's what I mean, where it's like, hey, like, how successful are you? How vetted are you? Have you focused on your own level of success before you go running your mouth? And can you just stand a little taller and have a little bit more strength to it, a little bit more conviction to it, versus you trying to convince everybody that your way is the way? And like, I think that's what we've kind of grown past. I've got some other things I want to say to that as well, but I think that's one thing that we've really started to like grow for is like, you hear so much of like, yeah, man, I'm up for everyone. Yeah, the 1%. But it just, every time you hear it, it does come from a egotistical, condescending, well, shit, listen, man, I know what I'm doing and I know how to get there, but I'm not for everyone. It's like the undertone there is that if you don't agree with me, you're not going to win.
Yep.
And that's not what we're trying to fucking say.
Right.
It's more so we're going to play the game how we play the game, and that's our best opportunity to win. And we're going to do it how we know how to do it, and we're going to do it with people that we see align with how we do it. And that's the most important piece is like just not trying to, force any alignment with people that don't necessarily align with your moral construct, your style, that has to fit, man. And if you're forcing that for some hypothetical potential opportunity, then now you're like, let's talk about the convincing part for a second. You're starting to convince yourself. It's not even convincing others. you come across an opportunity and you start selling yourself on the potential opportunity of a collaboration with someone or something like with a company or a person, like you name it, nothing specific. But if you're looking at like a potential or hypothetical opportunity first, but you're forced to like convince yourself to overlook or turn a cheek to something in order to be able to lean into that.
Mhm.
It's like, cool. So you're breaking your own moral construct or you're breaking your own stylistic way of playing the game for a potential opportunity that's not even real yet. That, by the way, it's probably not going to work out. You just keep selling it to yourself. And because of like that lack of conviction side. So it's twofold. It's like what you try to convince others of, what you try to convince yourself of. And then on the conviction side, can people feel your command presence and feel the conviction you have without it being forced, which would be your convincing side? And then do you have enough conviction with self to stand tall and say no to certain things if it doesn't fit a certain framework of style and moral, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you think conviction comes from experience and successes, or where do you think conviction comes
Oh,
from?
man, what a great question. I'll tell you how it works for me, right? Clearly just being, congruent with the podcast. I don't want to tell you guys how it's going to come to you. For me, conviction came more from a moral construct of how to live your life, of how to be and who to be before I had conviction in business. So, for example, like when I'm new to real estate, you and I have had plenty of opportunities, ironically, kind of from the start.
Mm-hmm.
And I was new to real estate. But like a lot of times I say things like, hey, I'm new to real estate, but I'm not new to bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And bullshits I'm using kind of loosely. I don't want to accuse just people of being bullshit if they're not on my side. But in the beginning with real estate, when people would throw opportunities in front of us, I wasn't necessarily savvy enough to dissect and have conviction with whether that was our play or not. Because I wasn't in real estate long enough to really say that. But I've been really good at like reading people and read what they say and how they behave. And I've always been really good on who to say no to. Not necessarily what to say no to, but I wasn't worried about what to say no to because whoever was in front of me, I was way better at saying who to say no to.
Yep.
Because I knew if we're in front of the right people, even if I don't quite understand the idea, if I'm in front of the right people, eventually the idea is going to make sense to me. I was just more in tune with aligning with the right people, hence you and I working together. I sought you out. I joined your team, right? Like I was more in tune with that than having conviction in, my style of play, my tactics. Now you and I have a lot of conviction in, hey man, this is what we're great at. This is what we're doing. This is what we do for realtors. This is what we do for consumers. This is our off-market shit. This is our on-market shit. These are our products. We got it. And we got conviction that, man, not only is it working, I don't need to convince anybody else that it is. We're good. We're focused, and I don't got to boast or prove it to anyone. Like, we're good, right? And I used to kind of talk a lot more about it because I was trying to convince people that it was good because I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Well, two things. One, they either just don't see it, or two, they're doing something that works for them. And they just don't necessarily need to come over here to work on what we're working on because it's not their best play.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you're not going to get me to go chase Zillow leads. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm not saying it's not cool. I'm saying you're not going to get me to be at the beck and call of my phone and go chase Zillow leads. I felt there was a different way to do it, hence the word different, okay? I'm not saying better. But again, it's like once I find something that works, hey, man, there's mega teams that do Zillow and they love it.
Mm-hmm.
So who am I to say that that's not for them? It's for them, right? But in the beginning, brother, it was like, man, I don't quite know everything and how it works or why it's whatever. But like, man, I know I don't want to align with that person. And here's the deal, dude. This is what you learn in the Marine Corps if you're a good one. A fucking creed, right? Like core values, honor, courage, commitment. Like you learn a way of life, right? And I had it, but I wasn't like intentional because you're just in that environment, right? And then when I was leaving the police department, heading to that fitness company, like I had some cop friends that were just a little bitter that I was leaving. I had some guys that were throwing some shade. But for the first time in my life at 30, almost 31 years old, I was like, man, if I do this, I got to leave some of these dudes behind. I can never talk to some of these guys ever again because if I bring the same luggage into the new vacation, somehow, some way, it's going to turn into the same shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just can't do it, right? So here's the deal, man. If you live by a creed and you have certain morals and principles and how you go about life with how you treat people, what you're willing to do to win, if like all these things, then if someone's presented to you or someone's presenting something to you, none of that matters. If you're loyal to a creed, if you're loyal to a way of life, then the decision's already been made.
Mm-hmm.
The decision was made before you even met that person or that thing. Because if it goes against what you stand for, what you believe in, or how you want to go about your business, if you're loyal to self and if you have that self-respect, it was already a no.
Yeah. So the moral conviction eventually leads to the business conviction.
There's people I'll say no to a year from now, and the no happened 15 years ago when I decided to be
Right.
more intentional of
Right.
who do I want to be? How do I want to live? How am I going to hold myself to that standard? And if I compromise those things for some hypothetical opportunity of what I could do with someone or do with something or do with a company, you're for sale.
Yeah.
And like
yeah.
that's what Ed Milet talks about. Like I'm trying to break this down a little bit with some of the layers. But when Ed Milet says, "Are you for sale? Are you for sale? Like you want this dream that you have, right?" You know, he talks about, are you going to sell out for a salary? Are you going to sell out for, but it's more layered than that. It's like, are you going to sell out on your dream with your approach of how you get there? Because like, look, dude, you and I have some big goals, but we're also in some big dreams, but we're also living it.
Mhm.
You got 2 beautiful kids.
Mhm.
You've got a beautiful wife, a healthy family. You're still married. I've got 3 beautiful kids,
Yep.
a healthy family. I'm still married. How we're going about our journey to our dream per se. It's like, no, dude, this is the dream.
You're there.
We're
Yeah.
just gonna get a lot richer. Like,
Right.
okay, but like, and I think we're happy, and I feel we're happy. I feel we're already embodying success because you and I have embodied a certain standard, a certain creed of what we're gonna live by,
Yeah.
who we're gonna live with,
Yeah.
and if certain things break our moral construct with the approach or how it comes about, we're just not going to do it. And you and I have always had this interesting dynamic. You've said hard no's to stuff. You go, hey, dude, I kind of dove into this. It's not for us. We're not doing it.
Yep.
And then same thing. I've said it. And we just have 100% faith. If like, hey, if Eli's saying that, cool. If Will's saying that, cool. 100% trust, man. Like we're also very good at like our own self-accountability of like questioning ourselves,
Yeah.
challenging when we want to say no to someone or something. We subjectively like argue the other side on our own.
Mhm.
I'll call you arguing against myself
Right. Right.
to just confirm some certain things. But I think that's also why you trust my
Yeah,
judgment.
totally.
But dude, who you're living along this path and who you're around, like I've slept in a pantry before. And I left a company that was paying me like, dude, I've never felt bad taking a step back. Maybe no step back, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
If I've ever made a moral construct decision on this thing, this company, this person, that approach, you name it, if I've ever made a judgment call that my heart, my gut was speaking to me on,
Yeah.
I've never felt bad about it. Even if it like potentially cost me hypothetical money that I think I could have made with that company or that person, that's no longer going to be an opportunity because I know enough. I have enough conviction that I know that's not true. And even if it is, we're going to be going about it a way that I don't feel good about. Like I have zero guilt when it comes to that. And here's where I've matured at 40. No response can be my response. Like
Yeah.
that conviction I
That's
have
so
with
true,
myself
dude.
to make
Yeah.
that decision, I don't need to come tell
That's
you
so
about it.
true.
I don't need to shove it down your throat. I don't need to go prove some company I beat them anyway. I don't need to tell that person I'm going to win anyway. Like, I don't need to do any of that. I think the conviction is what keeps you focused and straight and just, hey, man, what they think about me or none of my business. Like,
Well, that's
I'm
all
here.
convincing, right? Like that's where you do go
Yeah.
from conviction to convincing.
Yeah.
Where did your moral conviction and construct come from in the first place? Because if that's where people should kind of start, and then the business conviction comes later, what'd you use to
Do you have
establish
good
that?
questions today? I don't know. Well, I know. I have a couple different things that I live by, like
Okay.
like a couple different character traits that I think are important. The first one and the main one that always rings true to me is loyalty.
Okay.
But I break this down different than most people think, right? Like it's not necessarily like I'm loyal to, hey, Will's loyal to Eli. No. Will's loyal to a cause that's bigger than himself, that's bigger than anyone could ever be. And I try to serve that cause through my own moral construct.
Mhm.
Eli aligns with that.
Mhm.
If Eli ever decides to be unbecoming and it's now he's starting to embody certain character flaws. I'm not talking like you have an off day and let me check you and whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that stuff. You and I can check each other. Kind of get off. We get distracted. Sometimes I'll get a little moody. Sometimes you get a little, like, whatever it is, right? Like, that's not a character. That's not a character flaw. That's just like an off day, or you're kind of stuck in the weeds. But like, if you were to start embodying things that are just unbecoming for a duration of time, why would someone expect me to be loyal to that?
Yeah. Right.
And listen, dude, let's put it back on myself. You would do the same thing to me. If I started embodying things that were character flaws that did not align with who I was when you first met me and who I was becoming when we were growing, and I've now started to embody different things that's just changing me as a person, you're not here. And the fact that you wouldn't be here is one of the reasons why I keep myself in check in the first place.
For both of us. Yeah.
When you respectfully have to earn, like when people will do anything for you, you would do anything for me, but I still have to earn the relationship. And if I'm not who I need to be, you're not here, because it wouldn't be healthy for your family. It wouldn't be healthy for you. And why the fuck would I expect you to be? So when I talk about loyalty, I really learned in the Marine Corps, dude, as much as we talk about like saving our brother or being prepared to do so, et cetera, we were all embodying and we were all loyal to this higher ideology of what it meant to be a Marine. Make sense?
Yeah,
So
totally.
it wasn't just loyal to like like it's bigger than a person.
Yep.
It's a way of life. Like maybe you guys think that's kind of corny. I'm getting real samurai on you, I guess. But it's true. So like when I say no to someone, or if I hold the line on certain values or principles that I think are important to me, and maybe that rubs someone the wrong way, or they don't necessarily align with those, or they don't see why it was so important for me to hold the line on something that they don't think is a big deal, that's okay. Like, I don't need to change you or make you feel like it should be important to you because it's important to me. I just need you to understand that it's important to me. And if we can't work past this and that's okay, then we don't align. And here's what's cool. That's better for both of us.
Yeah.
We can move on and move forward and go live our lives and do our things versus like trying to force people into an opportunity that quote unquote could be. It's going to end in disaster, right? But I really started understanding the loyalty to like just the vision of like, what's your ideal Marine? What's he do? What does he embody? And like, dude, when you talk, like when you go through the Marine Corps, you know, like I'll give it to you guys while we're here. I mean, this is like, it's not just honor, courage, commitment. And, you know, a lot of, you know, like, you know, Semper Fidelis, right? Cool. But like that's like, oh, it means always faithful. These are, I don't want to call them cliche, but these are like the things that people know about Marines. Our core values are honor, courage, commitment. Our slogan, right, is like Semper Fidelis, which means always faithful. And, okay, but like, let's just go into this. Let's see here. Here we go. Let's dive in and let's just go to the Marine Corps 14 leadership traits. Okay. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So 14 leadership traits for a Marine. This is what you learn, small unit leadership, just from a young Marine on how to be. Bearing, courage, decisiveness, dependability, endurance, enthusiasm, initiative, integrity, judgment, justice, knowledge, loyalty, tact, and unselfishness. So when you're thinking about these things, where do you express bearing? Right? Bearing can also be temperance sometimes, right? Like, but where do you where do you express bearing? Where do you express courage? Courage doesn't have to be this roar, like it doesn't have to be that, right? Like decisiveness, how well and prepared can you make decisions? Dependability, endurance, enthusiasm, initiative, integrity, judgment, justice, knowledge, loyalty, tact, and unselfishness. If you were to embody these 14 leadership traits, what would your avatar look like? And when you see that, it's like, how do you go about your life? Where do you hold the line? When do you hold the line on certain leadership traits that start to create the person that you want to embody, the person that you want to take on? You're going to have to make decisions. If people say things like, you know, they'll step on people's necks, or what, it's like you gotta see things for what they are, and just ask yourself if that's acceptable or certain things. And you know, if companies embody certain things or conduct themselves a certain way, like regardless of an opportunity, like do you like that? And here's what's really cool about podcasts, dude. Look at all these professional athletes that don't like how ESPN is ran, and all the conspiracy and all the bullshit that goes on with ESPN, but that was the only place to go. Like, and now you got podcasting and like, look at all these guys that have their freedom of speech and they can be who themselves and they don't have to, and they're making a ton of money.
Yeah.
And they get to feel like they can just transparently be who they are. I mean, how powerful.
Yeah.
But how many people just do not care for how ESPN operates, and how much does ESPN have to pivot for that? Like, that's just a big example of a company, maybe not operating, I don't know, but from the sound of it, operating, unbecoming, but that's your only option. So you got to sell your soul to the fucking devil to be on TV, to do these things so you can somehow sell your book.
Yep.
Well, now you got podcasting, dude, and you got some guys that are really big that just, now ESPN needs them.
Yeah.
So now they're going on, like, look at McAfee.
Yeah.
That dude got $100 million something contract, and ESPN said, we will never filter what you say.
Yep. Yeah, it's awesome.
And people thought that was bullshit till Pat McAfee called out one of the executives on his show.
Yeah, and they aired it.
And said, here's his name, here's what he's doing, here's how he's doing it. And he's you know, what do you call it? Whatever, releasing their headline stuff first and shadow banning them or something, whatever executives do to hurt someone.
Yeah.
And he caught it. And then he just calls it out on his podcast.
Yep.
And you're like, whoa. And ESPN, I think they let the guy go.
Damn.
But the point is, it's like now it's kind of like shifted. But that's what I mean, right? Like, everyone can say whatever they want about Pat McAfee and, oh, he's Aaron Rodgers' buddy, whatever. But like, hey, man, that guy is just being himself and who he is from the start. He never went to a network. The networks didn't even want him. He starts his thing and like, look how many people have come after him that are now that have huge shows. And it's just saying now, and he's created this demand. He's created this pipeline. And then when he goes to ESPN, they say, we're not going to filter you. We're not your boss. Here you go. Here's $100 million something. Like, holy crap. But again, it's like, man, you got to respect a lot of that conviction and just being himself and not being a sellout to like, hey, I just don't believe in certain things.
Yep.
At a very micro level, I feel like those are the decisions that you and I make as far as like who, what, where, like, we're just, you know, it's not just people, it's also companies and different things. And, you know, that's just where I lean into. My conviction comes from, I believe in who I want to be.
That's the whole like ironic part of it, right? Of like, you know, people that are so busy trying to convince people of the way that they think or believe or whatever, turns people off. They can sniff it out a mile away, even if they don't know what they're identifying.
Yep.
But when you're just someone that's convicted, how much more appealing that is to the masses, even
To
if
the
they
right
agree
people.
with you or not.
100%.
You know, even if they agree with you or not, it's so much more appealing to listen to someone that is convicted of what they're talking about. You know,
And again, like if you're more in tune with who you want to be, then what decisions you have to make are a lot more clear.
yeah,
Like, dude, the reality is you and I have not had to make a lot of really hard, difficult, dynamic decisions. Typically, decisions are right in front of your face.
Yeah.
You just don't want to make
Yeah.
it because it's like, man, that could be such an opportunity or whatever. And it's like, or not.
Well-
or you're sacrificing. So like for me, it's like to answer that question 20 fucking minutes ago, right? Like where it starts for me is I have an ideology of who I want to be and what values that I have. And I try to align that first. And as long as I'm embodying that and focusing on that, the opportunities I say yes and no to, it's not really dollar related. It's so much bigger into me being okay with who I am. You know, the yeses and nos become very clear to me and become very, especially over time.
Yeah.
I've made enough decisions that maybe on the surface looked like it set me back or didn't let me do something, but it ended up being bigger.
Oh,
Look
yeah.
at you, buddy. I left a company that I helped build
Mhm.
that had certain friction points, and at some point it was just no longer, you know, aligning with like who I want to be. It felt like it almost kind of like attacked me,
Yeah.
right? And all good, but it just changed, right? I decided to leave that company, and hey, I'm no longer making any money. I wasn't good with money back then. I was making decent money, about $100K, but I wasn't good with money. I was spending it all. I went broke, dude.
Yeah.
I had no money. I was sleeping in a fucking pantry.
Mhm.
I had no trouble sleeping in that pantry, believing in who I was, believing in who I wanted to be, and having conviction with if something doesn't feel right, if someone doesn't feel right, doing it. But dude, like those moments and sleeping in a pantry led to a real estate license, which led to some success there, which led to me meeting you and like, buddy, how do I even speak to how important and pleasurable and special you are to me. There isn't.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother podcast and it still wouldn't work. I still couldn't say. But it came after a difficult but proper decision for embodying like really what I'm about and who I want to be. And then when people see like that, and then you go to from helping build that to sleeping in a pantry, people might think you're crazy. You're like, maybe.
But you know what it does? I don't think they think you're crazy. I think when you see someone that's convicted like that, it leads to curiosity, right? Which I think is part of the appeal to like watching these people that are on stage and watching a real leader.
And dude, I documented it. I'm doing fucking Lyft on my Instagram back then.
Yeah,
I didn't hide that I was in a pantry and then like not say something. I didn't hide that I was doing Uber and Lyft and then say it once I'm a millionaire and now it's fancy.
You weren't trying to convince people that you were something that you weren't.
I was doing it while I was doing it.
Right.
I didn't come back 7 years later to say I was doing it on some stage so
Right.
people can applaud me for starting over. I was showing it while I was there. Like, that's not fun.
Yep.
You know, but like, dude, I'm more okay like sleeping, being the person I want to be versus like being around something that just no longer serves who I want to be. But it's not a selfish thing. It's just like, yeah, man, having that conviction and belief in oneself. And here's what I'll say as well. I know we got like 8 minutes and you got to hop on a call. Nowadays, and we're guilty of giving this to people as well in effort to help them. Nowadays, okay, especially in the real estate space, it's like everybody has something for you. They have an opportunity for you. They have a course for you. They have a program for you. They have a network for you. And they're just throwing everything. And then like this belief system comes into play of like, I need that opportunity. I need that opportunity. I need that person. I need that program. I need that course. I need this course. And it's like everything external. It's like the next thing that you need to be successful, right?
Yep.
Cool. Where I come from, they fucking took everything from you. Everything. And then when you come out of that, you realize everything you need is inside of you. First, I'm not disrespecting courses. We sell them. I'm not disrespecting networks. We are one. I'm not disrespecting programs at all. They're very valuable. There's also a gym on every fucking corner, but we're fat. Okay. Like it's like what I had to learn first and what everybody should learn first is like, hey, it's not the next person that wants to network with you. It's not the next course they want to sell you. It's not the next thing that we could collab with. It's not the next company that's coming in. It's like not first. When you're stripped of everything, bro, they take your hair. Girls, I know you think you're guys, we like our hair too, okay? Like it's not as important as girls, but I promise you, when they're shaving your fucking head, you're like, fuck, man. You're taking my hair too?
I bet, yeah.
They're taking everything, bro. Listen, dude, you don't even get your name. We're talking just basic Marine Corps boot camp. Special operations is cool and all this really cool stuff a lot of guys talk about online. I don't want to disrespect it. It is cool, but let's not undermine just basic training in Marine Corps where it started. Before you ever SOCOM, anything, like, dude, it starts here, right? You don't even get your name, bro. Right? Like, they give you camis, right? Dude, you don't need, like, you got these little, like...
Is it recruit or what is it?
You're a recruit,
like,
recruit Grimes. You have
Gotcha.
You say your name, but like you don't have name tags on your cam. You wear camis in boot camp.
Okay.
You don't get U.S. Marine on the camis, and you don't get Grimes on your camis.
Interesting.
You don't even get to blouse your boots. You got to run around with your boots unbloused, and you just look like a mud duck. You just look like a dumbass, right? And they don't even let you wear your cover correctly. You have to pull it all the way down so you look like a fucking idiot. Like they literally, bro, you get nothing. You get nothing. And then everything incrementally through boot camp, you get to blouse your boots. They let you wear your cover normal. You fuck it up, you go back. Incrementally. And then finally, they let you put U.S. Marine Grimes on your camis. But they take everything from you, bro. And they get you to see, like, listen, dude, no matter what, it's in you. You can accomplish anything.
Yeah.
You can do anything. You can endure anything because it's going to come through you first.
Yeah.
That's why the pantry doesn't bother me. That's why saying no to someone doesn't bother me. Like, oh man, are you sure that's a big opportunity? It's sacrificing something in me. In me first, motherfucker.
Yeah.
In me first. So if it's going to force me to sacrifice something within me, it's a no. Because everything in me matters significantly more than whatever tool you think or whatever relationship or collaboration you think I need. There is no need external, okay? Like, it's here first, right? Like, man, that's what's so powerful about going through things like that.
Yeah.
But now we're in this world, and we contribute, man. We do have stuff for agents, but like, and you want to help and you want to give them everything you didn't have when you built. But it's like, yeah, but the fact that we didn't have it is why we built it in the first place, because we had nothing.
Yeah.
And now we're giving everybody everything, and now they think it's the next thing or the next person
Yeah.
that they don't have, that they need, which is why they'll sacrifice their morals, they'll sacrifice principles, they'll be disloyal, they'll stab somebody in the back, whatever it looks like for people. Those things are possible because they've never had a moral ground to stand on.
Yeah.
They've never had the conviction within self to know, I'm going to make it regardless, and I'm going to do it the right way. They think they need that thing to be successful
be the
versus
thing.
being the thing.
Right.
Well said.
So it's like you have the conviction is interesting because when you have that, the convincing goes out the window because all decision making, all the other, like all the traits that you just read through all stem from being convicted. Right. And it's like when you have conviction in self and this moral construct, it's like you become more decisive. You become more this, you become more that, you become more that, because everything has that frame of reference versus when you don't have that, you're trying to convince yourself to do things. You're trying to convince people to see your way because your ego's tied to them aligning with you versus you knowing you have that thing in you.
Look at who we have us around. Look at who we have around us, man.
Yep.
Look what we've attracted.
Yep.
Look at the people are like, look at the culture we've created.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at the Spartans, man. They didn't have the most dudes,
Right.
but they understood their battlefield. They understood how to fight, when to fight, where to fight, depending on what their fight was. And we talk about them to this day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, look at what they accomplished, right? You guys can look at the 300 movie. There's way more history on Spartans than just that, right? Like, look at what they accomplished by just running their play and the conviction behind their training, their culture, how they were raised, their non-negotiables. And I promise you, all these other places with hundreds of thousands of people versus like a couple hundred, like I guarantee you on paper, this looks terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yet here we are talking about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's that, dude. But it's like, if behind the scenes doesn't work for you, and if you aren't there with it, and you haven't done the work with self, and you haven't had certain levels of attraction, yeah, man, like you're going to, but like, listen, I guess even before like my conviction, and we talk about recruit training, Marine Corps recruit training, all this stuff, it's like, okay, we'll go a step before that. I had great drill instructors that had just gotten back from Iraq, and they were ready to pour into Marines in the fucking worst way.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had first-person experience of what the fuck you need to be now.
Yep.
I mean, they had in real time what they went through and what we might go through, and we're gonna fucking make you, right? Like, so I guess if we go a step back from my conviction, like, okay, well, what about before you even embodied even how to obtain it? My circle, my people.
Well, because they had conviction.
100%.
Yeah, it's this whole thing. If they weren't convicted, when you're looking at them,
They
like,
knew what it took.
Do they really
For sure,
know
buddy.
what's up? Like that
For sure.
doubt creeps in, and
So, hey, listen, you're in business right now. You're in real estate right now, whatever it may be. You better start getting around the right people. And if it's comfortable and if it's cute and they keep throwing flashy shit in front of you, it might not be the right thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so just really understand what you want to embody and what you want to look like, and then go find where people are that and hold those values, and then get into a circle where like you can be ready and just, yeah, ready to be forged.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not easy, but we're going to start with you first,
Mm-hmm.
and then everything else kind of comes in trays. But I guess, man, to wrap this up, like, yeah, before my conviction, I took that leap, I took that step, and I went. And when I went, my mind was made up that I'm going to do it the right way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to take that leap, but I got around the right people. So for you guys in business or wanting to do business, real estate, take the leap. Even if you're already in real estate, if this rings true to you, great, take the leap and put yourself in front of the right people that believe and embody what you embody, and then just be prepared to be forged.
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to be working on yourself, and it's hard, and that's okay because you're going to grow. And if we can grow you, it doesn't matter what external thing is out there. You won't need it because you're prepared. You'll win.
Submit to something greater than yourself.
In order to just be forged into the strongest thing possible, buddy. But you have to, right? Like we see a lot of flashy shit out there now and a lot of flashy people out there now. And it's just like, hey, man, I've no problem. If it goes against something inside of me, it's not even in me anymore to allow it. I'm just going to politely go a different direction. And I don't need to convince anybody else of why or how or what. It's like, it doesn't matter that. I know why. I know how. And I'm not trying to prove that to anyone else because I know that what I stand for might not be for that person, or what I think is a big deal might not be a big deal to them. And that's okay, dude. Like, there's no problem. I have no problem with anybody right now. Like, that's what's really cool is you can say no and you can move forward without having any problems.
Yeah, it's so liberating in a way.
100%. And you also don't want to have problems because just because that person's not for you doesn't mean you were for them either. That's why it's okay. It's all good, right? So, like, when I talk assertive on this podcast about boot camp, it's because that's what the fuck that was. I'm not going to romanticize the work there, but I kind of carve it back out and smooth it back out when we talk about business, because the reality is the more conviction you have, the more patience and understanding that you'll have that someone else might have the same thing in a different direction. And who am I to disrespect whatever they believe in or don't believe in?
Right.
Let them be. You be, and then you let them be, and then there doesn't have to be an argument. You just go your different ways. Or if it's a company, right? Like, it's not just people. I don't want to over pontificate there. It's like, it's also just, it could be, well, not pontificate, but I don't want to over index there. It could also just be companies, man, like, and what they represent. It could be an entire industry for all we know, right? Like, but regardless of what that looks like, it's just got to start from within.
I love that.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you, bro. Right on.
Good stuff, dude.
Appreciate you letting me rant a little bit, man.
No,
Great
that's
questions
great.
today. I was intending on just letting you speak a little bit more as well, but
No, I love this, dude.
you
Yeah.
had some great questions today. I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate you, man. And yeah, just sharing insights from, like, you know, super unique, just life experiences and backgrounds, man. Like, that's why I like doing this, because it's like, if you haven't gone through those experiences, this is the next best way to get the insights that you're able to gather from those.
And hey, if you're really curious, you can just throw us a call.
That's true.
Come
That's
be a
true.
part of it. We'll get your ass in a diesel day.
Oh, God. I told Megan she needs to go to a diesel day yesterday.
Oh, how kind of you. You told her that yesterday after a C-section.
Yeah,
You're
I
a
did.
real hoot. You're a real hoot. She's going to listen to this, and you're going to come home, and she's going to go, Eli, you're not a part of my moral construct.
I don't know if she's listening to a minute of our podcast.
Fuck
She's,
no.
Yeah, she
Neither
doesn't
one
hear
of
any
our.
my
We
shit.
should have our wives on one day.
Oh,
They
God.
don't want to hear shit. No, Kate
man.
listens to it sometimes, and I appreciate when she does that. But they're awesome. They're a huge reason why we have what we have. But again, it just, not to get too long-winded, it speaks to what we've attracted and what we've built. Like, it comes from that, right? But again, it's like, just find your tribe, find what's for you. Don't necessarily try to convince everybody else that should be for them as well. Yeah. And just have that conviction of moving forward and just giving grace to others that align in a different direction. Because we know some great people that work differently than us, that do differently than us, that don't necessarily hold certain values where we do and they do where we don't. And it's all good because they're good people. Yeah. And it's just like, hey, man, just let the cars fall where they may, and just find your tribe. But you got to know what you are first before you can seek that and find that.
Absolutely.
Where you say no and yes and all that good stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Fuck yeah.
Perfect.
Love you, buddy.
Love you, man. Redefine.
Out of here.
We're out of here.
Little whiskey on the tongue and some long cut. I'ma slip it on down and turn it up. Southbound and we're trailblazing, yeah, but and the posse dirty, filthy like a spit cut. Got the moms at the gate bringing big guns. Raw records be the steak, we the A1. Speak up and we know where we came from. Welcome to the posse, let me hear